Welcome in to the Paul Kuharsky podcast, live from Edley's Barbecue at 12 South. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com, the best place for unique and independent coverage of the Tennessee Titans. Been doing it since 1996. Painful to say sometimes, one of those times being now at the end of the 2025 season. Good to see so many of you here. Happy New Year. We are going to talk about the end of this difficult season, what happens to the coaching staff as they enter a limbo period with a lot of their fates not going to be so pleasant. The measure of the Titans against the Jaguars, they played miserably against them just about a month ago. A rooting guide with some games that are very important to them this weekend, and much, much more. Always loaded up with your questions. Happy to see so many of them already in the comments section here. Feel free to retweet so that we extend our tentacles throughout the interweb. Happy to see you here again. Happy to be at Edley's. Happy with the lighting situation here. Thought it was interesting. Cam Ward on Wednesday talked about his experience through his rookie year, and say what you will about the guy, but a lot of his attitude is exactly what you would want from a guy who, you know, a lot of the downs of the season have been of his doing. Now, we know that his surroundings have been poor. The coaching situation has been difficult. The talent around him, not good. The defense hasn't provided him with great situations. And, you know, in a lot of ways, a lot of quarterbacks, I think at the end of a season like this would be saying, yeah, I need to get the hell out of here. And I want to forget a lot about what happened here. And that's not the tact that Cam Ward, and it's not surprising that that's not the tact that Cam Ward has taken at the end of this season, but his has been more that he's going to cherish everything about this year. And I think if you're a Cam Ward fan, if you're rooting for Cam Ward to ultimately be the guy, if you found the path to enjoy the good of Cam Ward this year, if you've looked past the kind of contrarian element that he has at the podium on a weekly basis and appreciated that he hasn't turned sour in answering a lot of negative questions, deserved negative questions about things that have panned out, that there's reason to appreciate that the guy comes out of 16 games, heading into his 17th game of a very difficult season, and says he's going to cherish all of it.
Every moment of it. You wake up early. Every moment from no matter what clip you watch when you watch a film, because every moment can change your game. Every moment can change your life. Not a lot of people get a chance to sit up here and play football for a sport. You know, a lot of kids still come to our games in week 3 and 13 just because they want to see, you know, their favorite players play games. So every player takes advantage of every opportunity that you get. I think just the most that I continue to do that for myself and my teammates continue to do that. You know, it'll all lead us to where we want to be.
So you're going to look back on this whole experience fun.
Yes, sir.
He talks highly of Bo Hardegree, and look, I think Cam Ward has the proper mechanisms. That's not the right word. Has the proper behavior and knows, having watched his dad get up early in the morning, which he's talked about, go to work for a job that he didn't like. I think his dad fell in line is the wrong thing. His dad understood the chain of command at his job and the way you have to respect your bosses and all of that. And there's room for Cam Ward not to have liked some of the methods and the avenues of leadership that he was given this year, based on them not necessarily helping him and the team get to the wins that he wanted. Now he's going to have new leadership soon, and he's got to give a clean slate to the people that come in to lead him. But I think the respect level needs to go up, and I'm not picking on certain people. I just think over time, Cam Ward, who came in as a successful guy, who maybe his play overcame in college any kind of coaching deficiency is the wrong word, but you get where I'm coming from. And now he gets to the NFL, and that's not possible for his play just to overwhelm whatever situation he's in. Now he needs the kind of leadership that will present him with answers to the situations that he can't solve just on his physical talent. And he needs guys that he can trust to take him there. He also needs to acknowledge that it took time for some of these things to click in, and it's not as fast a process. It hasn't been as fast a process here as he would have liked, in large part or in good part because of what he's been surrounded by. Let's see what you guys are up to out there. Happy New Year to all of you. Will this year be better than last year? I think it's hard not to see it as better, but we said that after last year. Does this year now feel better than last year? I mean, I think it's ended. It's ending better. I think, too, like if they go out and get clobbered by Jacksonville, it will change my feeling about the late progress they've made, even though I think they're going to go out and get clobbered by Jacksonville. We shall see. A lot of talk about Ruben Bain. Bain moved the hell out of me, Adam says to Sammy. He's a menace. I'd take 2 or 3 of their defensive linemen. And it got Sammy excited. But look, here's my thing about Bain, who obviously is a very good football player. I just don't want another debate about arm length and position. Now, if you're picking 4, I want a guy who's got no questions, right? And so I haven't seen as much of him as you guys. I haven't paid as close attention to him as you guys, but I'd really want a player that is just an unquestioned. He seems like he's an unquestionably good football player. I would like an unquestionably good football player who has no physical characteristic questions. Is Carnell Tate off the board at this point? He seems like Corey Davis 2.0 to Bustin' Diamond. I don't know what makes you think that. I don't think he's off the board. I think he might be the top wide receiver in the draft. Hello, Sergey. Good to see you. Yeah. Adam said that game also told me what we need to pass on Tate. I want wide receivers who show up and show out in big games, and he disappeared. It's also, a 1-game sample. And, of course, you'd prefer that the guy showed up in a big way. But the fact that he didn't doesn't erase his resume from the entire year. Olave has a blood clot, asks Robert. He still embarrassed the heck out of our secondary. Well, don't know that the blood clot was limiting him then. We know that the blood clot has showed up since and is cause for him not to play. Caden Duncan, my man. I'm loving the PK website. Worth every penny if you love the podcast. That's a nice advertisement there. If you like the podcast, you will like the website. $7.50 a month is nothing. You'll spend that on a cup of coffee, on a cocktail, on a beer. And I think I would imagine most of the people in here have 1 or 2 of those a month or a day. So come on board. Going to be lots of news and analysis through the coaching search and the staff assembly and the combine and on and on and on. So you're missing out if you're not on board with all of that stuff. Come join, and there's a testament from Caden, and I appreciate it. Can we skip Carnell and just put in an early draft waiver for Jeremiah Smith in 2027? They need help now. Now. Sammy wants a edge at the top of the draft. I was playing with the draft machines yesterday. It's very scrambly as to what you could get. Like, I got Bain at 18-1, which I think is ridiculous. I got Tate super late in 1, consistently trading out of 4. Let's do the rooting guide here, because the Titans, I don't expect the Titans to win in Jacksonville. It's possible. If the Giants beat Dallas, not inconceivable, unlikely, the Titans would move up a spot if they lost. If the Jets beat Buffalo in the last game at what was for a long time known as Ralph Wilson Stadium, the Titans would move up a slot. So they could get as high as 2, but those are both improbable results. You're rooting hard, though, for the Giants to win and for the Jets to win. Big New York football fans this weekend. Titans fans should be. Look, the Jets, Josh Allen may not play for the Bills, which obviously would enhance the Jets' chances. But there is a lot of sentiment going on in Buffalo for the last game in a stadium where a lot of important football games have played in a building that's been a central feature to Western New York for a long time. So it's very interesting. If you haven't seen it, it's on my timeline. It's a really good story about the tunnel. The stadium there, oddly, because of the way it was built, because of the hurry that it was built in, because there wasn't a lot of consideration to how football would expand and all of that, has one tunnel. So both teams come in and out of the same tunnel. The media walks in and out of that tunnel. The medical people walk in and out of that tunnel. The snow plows stuff, which is why it's hard to clear the field there. There's only one tunnel. And Tim Graham, a good friend of mine who's an excellent reporter and writer, did a fantastic piece about the tunnel and all that has transpired in that tunnel, which also has a 7-degree incline. So it's easy to walk down and not as easy to walk up after a tough game. I recommend it. It's a piece at The Athletic. I retweeted it with comment. So I'd recommend you go see it. Titans also need Baltimore to win in the biggest game of the weekend. Baltimore and Pittsburgh play for the AFC North title and a spot in the playoffs. And if Baltimore wins that game, the Titans pick that they get back from the Draymond Jones trade turns from a 5th into a 4th. There were 2 conditions on that. Draymond Jones needed to get 2 sacks. He's got 2.5, so he's met his condition on that. Now Baltimore needs to make the playoffs. That's the second condition, and the pick moves from a 5th-round pick to a 4th-round pick. Certainly that's better for the Titans. The other thing you'd like, Arizona right now has the Titans have the edge over Arizona based on strength of schedule. The weaker strength of schedule is better. So you want Arizona's opponents to win and have the better weekend, and Tennessee's opponents to lose and have a lesser weekend. So that is the rooting report. Giants, you want to beat Dallas. Jets, you want to beat Buffalo. Baltimore, you want to beat Pittsburgh. Arizona opponents, success. Titans opponents, failures. Can't we learn Ohio State wide receivers produce in the NFL? That is generally a rule. Smith is certainly the better wide receiver at Ohio State, but he's not in the conversation right now. And it's time to stop thinking about the future for the Titans and think about the present. Wow, if this is true, Cyrus says he saw a post a couple weeks ago that edge rushers with arms shorter than 33 inches drafted in the last 20 years have never had a double-digit sack season or made a single Pro Bowl. I mean, if that's true, I would have liked you to bookmark that tweet so we could see where it's from. I mean, if that's true, that would be influential to me regarding Reuben Bain. Now, people say, well, you move him, and it's not necessarily an edge. Well, the Titans need an edge. I need a defined edge for this team. If he moves inside, if he's Sebastian Joseph Day, that's great. And Sebastian Joseph Day is a free agent, and they need to adjust that position. But that's not the position that has been haunting them, and that's not the position you need to address with your first-round draft pick. You need to address, if you're going defensive, you need to address edge. Do I think the Titans coaching search will go pretty fast? They've had months to send out feelers. Well, they still have to have interviews. Sometimes you have 2 a day, but I don't think they're in a hurry. I think they're want to be thorough. So whatever it takes to be thorough. Isn't Brandon Graham, Bustin' Diamond, saying pretty sure Brandon Graham had sub 33-inch arms, but Brandon Graham strictly an edge? Or is Brandon Graham a guy that kind of bounces? Richard said, I was a trade back guy, but I had hopes that Ward could finish up somewhere around the 16th quarterback. He's probably in the 22 to 25 range, but with some hard offseason work, he should make up some ground next year. Look, it's too early to make a final judgment on Cam Ward. And so where he ranks amongst quarterbacks in his rookie year, I think we're well beyond that being an important number in defining what Cam Ward is or isn't. There's been progress late in the season. We know what he's good at. We know what he's not particularly good at. He's too loose with the ball. He fumbles too often. He leads the league in fumbles. He does not throw a good enough ball, deep ball outside the numbers, particularly to his left. He's got to get better at that. But he's got magical moments in him. And we're seeing those more and more. He's got to be better from the pocket. You got to have a better feel for the people around him. But we've seen an increase of good moments from him. Imagine the good moments with better receivers, with better protection, which, I think the receivers have played better as the season has gone on. But those receivers need to be further down the pecking order, right? DK can't be a 1 or a 2. He should be a 3. Isle Manor should be a 4. Jefferson should be competing for 5. Bryce Oliver back in the mix will be nice. They need at least 2 receivers. I've said this time and time again. I'd like to see a high draft pick and a good veteran brought in. I'd like to see a more sensible use of the tight ends by the play caller and more kind of understandable play calling sensibility with regard to the tight ends. I'd like to see them stop calling screens where you're asking DK to block when DK is a terrible blocker of screens. Pickens is not a Tennessee guy. I mean, if they're getting rid of Brownlee because they don't like Brownlee's character in the locker room, Pickens, first off, I think Pickens will re-sign in Dallas, but he's trouble. I think as soon as he gets money, he'll be trouble again. He was trouble in Pittsburgh. I think you should cross Pickens off the list. The highest they can pick, TM is asking, what's the highest and the lowest they can pick based on losses this weekend? The highest they can pick is 2. If somebody could chime in here with the lowest, Breakthrough Bits is saying they're locked into the top 8. Bain or David Bailey, TM is saying he'd be fine with. Prefer Bain, pair him with Jeff and Sweat, and this D-line will be elite. I mean, people keep mentioning Sweat as if he's a pass rusher. He's not. I mean, have I missed T. Sweat rushing the passer this year? To mention him there, like if you get Bain, then you pair him with Simmons and Sweat. What a pass rushing trio. Well, that's a pass rushing duo to me and a great run stopper. But Sweat was supposed to step it up this year as a pass rusher. I don't see him in the backfield harassing quarterbacks. I think it's everybody wants him to be that. Everybody's fascinated by his size and his body, but they spent the 38th pick in the draft on a very good run stopper who's hard to handle. And maybe he ties up some people that makes it a little bit easier for Simmons and other guys to get to the quarterback. He's not in the backfield. This is very good from Rob Nell. Please stop letting one game dictate where a guy is drafted. Still have combine and Senior Bowl practices. A lot of opinions will change. And listen, the body of work is what a guy gets drafted on, not one game. Caribbean Daniel, with whom I've had some difficult times, is a fan of the website. I think we're making progress, Caribbean Daniel. I don't know that you've annoyed me with your love for Brazel. I might be butchering his name. It's just that when locals fall in love with the local, I always think it's tinted with orange glasses. And I would love, by the way, for people in here, let's do this thing. Doesn't mean more for the SEC. SEC season's been a big disappointment. They're not a special conference. Any of you who have been big SEC talkers, I would welcome your comments on that. Look, I loved Vandy's season, but when they go and lose to Iowa, what are their best wins, really? A lot of teams counted Tennessee as their best win, and what did Tennessee do this year? You can't talk about how it just means more and then go to the bowl games and lose them. And say you didn't care about the bowl games. It's a sliding scale. And the only reason that the SEC is in the Final Four still is because there was a head-to-head game, and congratulations to Ole Miss. And I'm excited for them, and that was a fun game last night. But Alabama's a shell of itself. Georgia didn't come through, and who doesn't love seeing Kirby Smart have to shut up for a minute, though I'm sure he'll be making excuses and finding ways. But I would love to see some SEC people be realistic about the SEC and what the SEC was not this year, instead of defending the SEC and making excuses. There's my SEC rant. More people touting the website. Come join. Very easily done. Very easily done. I'll even put up a link for you. That's how easy it is. And then you will get a text message that will tell you how to when I'm going live on these, which is a fantastic resource. So you don't have to wonder when things are going. Like, you'll know, boom, oh, Paul's going live. I'll just click on this link in my texts, and everything will be perfect. And look, there in the comments is a link to sign up. Easy as that. Give Cam someone with length, 6'5", and can run. Well, I don't know about 6'5", seems to be a especially tall standard. How many 6'5" guys are in this draft pool? But what are our biggest problems to fix in free agency versus fixing the draft? Well, I think you can find offensive linemen in the draft the way they found Zeitler, which was a good attempt at fixing it. I'm a big Alec Pierce fan. Romeo Dobbs wouldn't be bad either. You need a veteran there. The list of cornerbacks is poor, but they've got to find one there that they like for how many for how many cornerbacks they need to help fix that position. They've got to do something in free agency there. So I think you got to touch all of those positions. I don't think you're finding, big time edge help. I would like to see Ward back. There's a guy who's moved around a lot and has been very good for the Titans. That would be a big help if they could re-sign him. And let's look at that. Let's look at the Titans' own free agents. Guys that are playing their last game for the Titans probably on Sunday, and guys who you would hope are back. So Titans free agents, Kevin Zeitler, I would not imagine is back. He was a disappointment. Arden Key, I think, has played out his time with the Titans, and they need to do better at edge. C.J. Ravenel, I don't think any of us noticed ever. And Jalen Armour-Davis, really, I could see having him back if he's way down your depth chart, but you don't want that guy on the field. I think Brandon Allen has been fine for what he's been asked to do, but the Titans are incredibly fortunate that he's not been asked to play. I think it's the 7th season in Titans history that a quarterback's played all the games and you haven't had to call on the backup. And I would like to see a better backup situation. Guys that you hope are back. I think it'd be hard to turn your back on Chig Okonkwo. If somebody comes after him and wants to overpay him, well, you've got a lot of money and you can overpay. I mentioned Hottie Ward. He's a guy you've got to keep, I think. You've got edge problems. You can't solve the depth there in one swoop, and keeping your own guy who really played well for you is key. Sebastian Joseph Day, I use as an example all the time of the kind of guys they need to find in free agency. And I think they should definitely find a way to keep him. He, is not a fantastic player. He's a role player who does well at filling his role. A lot of respect for him. Oli Udoh was the best swing tackle the Titans have had in a long time. And people are going to come after him, maybe even a team that's desperate for a starter. They need to do the best they can to keep him. Corey Levin has shown himself capable of plugging in and starting a couple games and helping you. He's good depth. I would keep him. And I know people object to Van Jefferson, but Van Jefferson started playing much better at the end. He's a hard worker. He's a good locker room guy. He's got to be moved way down the depth chart. Can't be your number one guy, as he's kind of been after Calvin Ridley went out. But if you could have him competing in the 5-6 with no guarantee of making the team, I would like to see him back. So those would be my free agent decisions. Let's see what you guys think. Robert says, did we not give Malik Willis a fair chance here? Malik Willis was terrible when he was here. He was going to take time to develop, and the Titans didn't have that kind of time. If they were going to carry three, you could have taken him along for the ride, but he really was not showing much promise. I have no beef with what they did. Daryl Baker's worth bringing back. I agree with that. Back end. I mean, he's quarterback 1 now. He needs to be quarterback 5 or 6. Alex says, which free agent running backs other than Breece Hall should they be interested in over potentially returning Pollard? I think it's probably worth another year of Pollard and Spears if we can't get Hall. Look, I'm kind of done with Spears. I'm kind of done with Tajay Spears. I mean, keep talking about the potential, what he can do in space, and every once in a while we see it. It was a game a couple weeks ago where he was, at over 100 yards combined rushing and receiving, and everybody says, that's it. That's the game. That's what we want to see out of Tajay Spears. And then a week later he's got like -1 rushing yards and doesn't do anything. It's just too spotty. And the guy can't run between the tackles. That back needs to be able to run between the tackles too. It's great that he's good in space. This team can't create space for him very often. I mean, he's here next year, but I think tabbing him as your running back too is selling yourself short. I need more. I like James Lynch. Here's James Lynch is a solid inside defensive lineman 4 or 5, and that's fine. And the thing about him being a solid 4 or 5 is that they've kept him as a solid 4 or 5. It hasn't been called on to be a 2. And if a guy like that can be a 4 or 5, then you bring in competition. If you upgrade it, that's great. But he's been steady at what he's been asked to do. Kenneth Walker, Sammy points out, is the other running back. Now, he's not been consistently healthy enough. And we're spoiled here. Pollard's been a healthy guy, and obviously Derrick Henry was healthy for all but 8 games of his years here, which was fantastic. But, I mean, I'd look at Kenneth Walker. Is there anything in Mullings? I mean, Mullings is going to be a guy who, is a situational guy. I don't know that he's going to grow into a thing. Mike Brown's another one I'd like to bring back. I mean, Mike Brown is, he's a special teamer and a 4th safety. He's fine, but I'm not desperate to keep him. Look at that. Sammy signed up for an annual subscription. Appreciate it. Good to have you. This is exactly right, Sergeant Bubbles. Titans need to find a running back in the late round or even undrafted to pair with somebody like Hall, just like the Bears found Kyle, I'm going to butcher his name, Manage last draft. Yeah, teams do it. And Titans haven't done it. Do we bring back Cushenberry or find someone else? Here's the thing about Cushenberry. The offensive line has played better of late. And Cushenberry's been a part of that. And I think the matchups have been a little bit more favorable. But I think you can look, and this all depends on what the new coach and his staff feel. And I think there's a scenario where you look at that offensive line and say, if we're only replacing Zeitler, we've got 4 out of 5 continuity. It took a good while for this group to get there. Let's build on that. As opposed to saying, hey, let's get rid of 2/5 of the group, and then they got to build the continuity all over again. So I'm a little bit out on that. Is there any chance L'Jarius Sneed is brought back? I mean, the guy's health is going downhill, and even when he was healthy, he didn't play that well. I will say Aaron Brewer is having quite the career. Jabari says he is, and Vrabel and Vrabel's staff loved Aaron Brewer. So he's turning into what they imagined he could turn into, which is impressive. I did not see that potential for him to become that. And it's good for him. Have not heard Caribbean Daniels asking about Jackson Slater. I have not heard much about him. But I think the fact that they haven't stuck him in the lineup at some point for a game suggests they don't trust him yet. Etienne Kenston is mentioning, and I think he is a free agent as well. That's somebody worth considering. I don't know. Pollard has done much better, obviously, but slowed down significantly, and so his 20-yard runs should be – some of his 20-yard runs should be 50-yard runs, and you're giving up some big-time yards in that. Let me tell you about Edley's Barbecue, this fine facility that I'm in. It's just about to open here. I'm at 12 South, which is my home base, Edley's, during the season. They've also got fine restaurants at Nolansville, the Franklin and the Factory, Franklin and Berry Farms, Sylvan Park, East Nashville, Donaldson, and Gallatin. One of those, I'm thinking, is in range of virtually any of you who are in the Nashville area. You download their app if you're in range of one of those. Put in your zip code; it'll tell you if you are. And these delivery fees that have gotten out of control with all of these apps aren't going to hurt you, because the delivery apps that charge you extra for the same service, Edley's isn't going to charge you anything close to that. It's a pittance. They'll be fast. Their drivers will get to your house, deliver you hot food that will make it feel like you are eating in the restaurant in your house. So it's the next best thing to being here. Now, I don't want to discourage you from being here, because being here is fantastic. Lines are non-existent or short, and they move fast. The portions are big. The food, I tell you time and time again, is fantastic. I get the burnt ends most of the time. I shift over to the avocado plate, which if you had told me I was going to be an avocado plate guy, I would have told you you're crazy, but they are fantastic. Barbecue and all kinds of stuff on there, and you choose your protein, rotate between the brisket and the chicken, and it's all fantastic. They got this ooey gooey bar that I can't resist that I have for dessert. Drinks are fantastic. Bartenders and the wait staff are incredibly friendly. It's really the perfect setup. You need to bring somebody for a business lunch soon, or round up the family. Come for lunch on the weekend, dinner anytime, or on a nice weeknight. Save yourself making dinner. Have a great time. Use the app. Get it delivered to your house. Edley's Barbecue. You cannot go wrong. Consistently, when I bring them up, everybody in the comments echoes just how good Edley's Barbecue is. You're overdue to make a stop. Start the new year off with Edley's Barbecue. It'll make your barbecue experience as smooth as possible if you use the app. I did not make any picks this week, so you've got that going for you in terms of not losing any games. Good for you. Let's Tony Oden is dealing with these cornerbacks, Kyer, Elam, and Hall. Just disastrous guys who are not NFL players. Titans have to make it through one more game, piecing these people together, with Marcus Harris hurt, with Jalen Armour-Davis hurt. Those guys not fantastic by any means. And so a lot of trouble ahead there if Trevor Lawrence gets on a heater like we've seen him do lately. Going to be more trouble. Here's Oden, the cornerback coach, on what those guys can learn in a week heading into their last game.
Oh, corrections. All right. What can I coach better? All right. What can I get them to understand better? All right. And then from their perspective, all right, doing the techniques and the communication, how can they get better? Working together. All right, because they're just not out there on the island. We're out there working with other individuals. We want to make sure we're on the same page with that. Like I said last week to these guys right here, I'm glad that they're here. I'm impressed with the way they work. All right, and it's a new week. Now, what happened last week, we learn from, we move on, and I learn to get better, they learn to get better, and we get better together.
What kind of strides can they make off of the mistakes they made last week, going into one more to kind of cap a resume?
Huge strides. So much, from a coaching and playing perspective, as I look at it. How can they do it? What can they do? How big is up to the individual. All right, but there's a lot of things that we can get better, and they will just from time on task. All right, we're going out there. Some of these guys are going out there and communicating with each other for the first time. When it really counts, and that's what makes it a little more challenging to learn on the job training right there. But they're doing a good job, and I'm glad we got these guys. They play hard, they play fast, and as long as they do those things, we can make the corrections.
I'll tell you a secret. I thought I'd made some progress with Tony over the course of the year, but not enough to secure a phone number. Sad. Look, he and Denard Wilson, very difficult job back there. Let's talk about what's going to go on with these coaches who are all in limbo. Now, we know position coaches were extended for a year before the season, which was not an unreasonable thing to do. You don't want a coaching staff worrying about its fate. It's relatively customary for teams to not have lame duck coaching staff, lame duck coach. And when these guys who are let go and get another job in the league, those salaries will be offset. So what the new team is paying them, and they're expected to pay them a reasonable number, then that comes off the Titans' books, and they don't have to pay them that. Then the Titans will be doing the same. They'll be inheriting some guys who, got fired elsewhere, and they'll be paying them, and they'll be offsetting their salaries from somewhere else. It's kind of a merry-go-round thing. I don't think the Titans will jump to fire people, on Monday and the like. Obviously, Mike McCoy will get fired. With all these guys under contract, the Titans ultimately will fire some of them in relative short order. And then others, they will say, hey, we're interested. We would like you to talk to the coach. We would like the new coach to talk to you, but we can't hold you up. So you're free to look at other opportunities, but we would also like for you to talk to the new head coach when he's hired here, and maybe there's potential for you to stay. And there might be a couple that they are staunch about, like, hey, we're not going to let you leave until our new coach is in place and you've talked to him. Bones has, if he got the traditional 3-year contract for coordinators under contract for 2 more years, unless the new head coach has a, strong ties to some other kind of special teams coach, it would seem like a long shot that they wouldn't have him. Any chance they look at Kirk Cignetti? I doubt it. I don't think they're going to have somebody take the head coaching job that does not have some reasonable amount of NFL experience. Does Cignetti have any? I'm not thinking he does. Bones does have head coaching energy, but was not a home run as an interim coach. Interim coaches, though, don't have a lot of room for a lot of success. They also don't have as much time as Mike McCoy had. He had it's going to have had 11 games. Should have done more with that time. Will we have a coach by Super Bowl? It's hard to say what the timetable is. What if the Titans coach is on one of the Super Bowl teams? Then no, they won't have a coach by the Super Bowl. So I don't understand why anybody would want anybody from this coaching staff to be the head coach of this team. They absolutely need new blood. Absolutely need new blood. Do I think they're looking more for a leader of men like Vrabel or a detail-oriented football nerd like Sean McVay? Well, I think you would love a combination of the two. I don't think they're setting out looking for specifically one or the other, though they certainly need leader of men in it. But look, I think you got to be open-minded, sit down, talk to all these guys and see what really overwhelms you and presents itself as the best option. You certainly have to have a coach who either is a quarterback guy and has quarterback people, or a guy who's got a quarterback plan and has quarterback guys. Would a defensive-minded head coach be helpful for Cam to teach him how to read and understand defenses better? As long as they bring in a great OC, I'm fine with the defensive guy. I mean, offensive or defensive guy is going to be able to teach Cam about how to read defenses. Why didn't they pursue Asante Samuel when he was available? Because they didn't like him. I mean, the answer when they don't bring in a guy is because they didn't like him. Kong on comms thinks Caleb Downs wouldn't be a bad pick in the first. They just drafted Kevin Winston, and they extended Amani Hooker. So where's Caleb Downs playing on opening day? He's redundant, and they can't have somebody who's redundant. It was quite the surprise to see the Titans official account posting PK giving Skoronski the Good Guy Award. I thought they'd avoid posting Paul at all costs. I don't understand that. I'm vice president of the Pro Football Writers of America Nashville chapter. Teresa Walker's president. And because I had a conversation with Skoronski during the year, early in the year, when the Titans were taking way too long getting the head coach to talk after games, Skoronski was leaving the locker room before we had a chance to talk to him. And I had a conversation with him, telling him how important he was to us post-game and asking if he'd consider staying longer. And he didn't really like the idea and kind of bristled at it. But sure enough, after the next game, when we came out of the head coaching thing, he kind of waved at me to show that he was there, and he was there every game after that. And he already is the best quote on the team and accessible in the locker room. And I don't see how anybody voted for anybody besides him for the award. But Teresa, who's, has the full authority to present the award, said, hey, since you had the conversation with him and helped make such an important change for us, why don't you present it? And I said, hey, that's really nice of you. I'd like to do it. But, I mean, in that circumstance, why would the Titans not show me making the presentation? I think you guys overestimate the friction between the team and I. How much better is reading and reacting to comments than having to listen to callers? In this circumstance, it's fine, and I've gotten used to it. I have to say, when I'm on the game on Wednesday mornings, I miss calls, and we take one or two, but they mostly operate on the text line. And I think people are more eager to text than to call, but I much prefer interacting with callers. Just want to see what else I have here to make sure I'm not missing anything. 48 minutes in. I'm Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com. Join the site and get text messages to tell you when these podcasts are going live. It will be a more irregular schedule once the season is over, so those will come in handy. You also get to read everything that's written by Blake Bedingfield, the former Titan scout who was with the team for 19 years. Pieces from Mike Herndon, who's just excellent. He alone is worth the price of admission. Analytical and really thoughtful, smart pieces. I'm proud to have given him a platform. Drew Beatty, who does film study, his most recent one on Tony Pollard, which is definitely worth a look. Braden Gall on college football and the draft, and much, much more. All my analysis and commentary as a guy who's been with the team since 1996 and is as connected with the insiders as anybody. I know many of you here have said you have joined, and I appreciate that. And also, you'd be supporting independent journalism, the best form, I think, of independent journalism. Worked for the Tennessean, worked for ESPN.com, know how all that stuff works, know the downside of all of that stuff, and now can operate independent of all of those middle management requests that hold a good guy back. Sam is allergic to avocado, which is a big disappointment. DJ says, great insight on the Titans is also. I think that. Here's one of my predictions. I think I mean, depending on how it goes for Baltimore, I think that I won't be surprised if Baltimore moves on from Lamar Jackson. This stuff that's come out about them scheduling practices around him being a late sleeper, and all of this stuff that has been known among. I mean, I knew this stuff. If I knew it, I mean, think of how widespread it is. I could see them parting ways and going a different direction. I do not have a nice vacay or trip planned since the season is wrapping. Coaching search is going on, and I am teaching at Belmont again, which starts next Thursday. And it's really ridiculous. Like 3 weeks in a row, I have like combine, Belmont spring break, my kids' spring break. Nothing aligns whatsoever. Do I expect Simmons to maintain his level of production next year after a new contract, or does he revert to similar criticisms he has faced prior to the contract season? I think Jeffrey Simmons is a changed guy for the better. There's still a little bit of weirdness to him, oddness to him, but you have to give him a ton of credit. I mean, he's really, the leadership change is real and meaningful. Can't argue with his play one bit. And I do think it's obviously wants to be here and wants to be a centerpiece in the turnaround. And Titans fans should really, really appreciate that. I'm trying to catch up on this comment. Somebody's talking about wanting to keep McCoy. I don't really get the comment, and keeping McCoy would absolutely be a horrific move. Buston said, in my opinion, Baltimore should let Harbaugh walk before trading Lamar. Elite quarterback play is something you don't give up unless you get a boatload of picks at the top of the draft for years to come. I think they would get a boatload of picks. I think you get at least 2 firsts from somebody like Miami, who would probably jump. Maybe Arizona. I mean, Mike McCoy is the worst head coach the Titans have ever had. I would include Ken Wisenhunt in that. Yeah, this Maresca Chelsea stuff is just there's no. Since I became a Chelsea fan, the EPL, they have not had a coach for 2 years, for a 2-year stretch. So they just parted ways with the coach, who seemed to have brought some stability and stuff. There's talk that he was talking to Manchester City about potentially replacing Pep Guardiola if he left after this season, which would be bad. But there's always some kind of crazy fucking drama going on. Would drafting Jeremiah Love be a bad move? I think it would be. Look, he'd be fantastic, and he could be a centerpiece of your offense and all of that. But that means that, once again, you've passed on edge and receiver and corner when you're just desperate for those things. I think you can draft a running back high after you get some of those things in order. I'll say this: McCoy versus Callahan. Callahan, at least at the beginning, had the team, fired up to play. Now, as the results were bad, that faded. But McCoy didn't do anything at the beginning of his tenure as the interim to get guys fired up to play for him. I just thought it was a terrible start. Cam was ultimately going to look better at the end of the season no matter what. And look at what Callahan did to Will Levis. I mean, are we convinced that Will Levis was going to be good? I mean, I think you guys all convinced yourself that Will Levis was something that maybe Will Levis is not. Any quarterbacks, in my opinion, worth the Titans' #1 pick without trading down? I would not take a cornerback at 4, given the other kind of options that exist there. You'll give me some choices here. Brian Flores, Jeff Hafley, Clint Kubiak, and Robert Saleh. Who would my favorite be? Well, Brian Flores has a lawsuit against the NFL. I don't think the Titans are hiring a guy who's suing the league. Jeff Hafley, very good. Clint Kubiak, I have liked, but it might be cooling. I like Saleh. I think Saleh could bring the best staff with him based on having been around and having been a head coach. So on that list, I'd go Saleh 1, Hafley 2. Hafley's got strong connections in New York. He's a Jersey guy. So he may be tabbed for the Giants. Though I think if something happens with Tomlin and Pittsburgh, that Tomlin would be destined for the Giants. How do I feel about Anthony Weaver, the DC from Miami? I don't know that much about him, but I do think he is should be in the mix. Does Levis come back to compete for starter next season, or Titans cut him loose? I don't think he'll be back. If he's back, he's certainly not competing for starter. Like what has he done that makes him compete for the starter? The starter on the Tennessee Titans at quarterback next year is Cam Ward. Unquestioned. I love Stefanski. And I should have mentioned Stefanski. Stefanski's a top 3 candidate for the Titans if he's fired. And I should have mentioned this. I think Nagy, if he doesn't get the head coaching job, is an offensive coordinator candidate if he doesn't get another job, especially with one of these young defensive coordinators. He's not under contract to Kansas City. I wrote this lately. Not under contract to Kansas City. And it would be a better job for him to come and be a play caller for the Titans or another team than staying with Kansas City and continuing to not be a play caller for Andy Reid. Matt Burke, who worked here, worked for the Titans for 4 years, has worked a lot of places. So he has got a lot of connections. Stefanski, if he becomes available over Saleh, that's a tough one. If Pittsburgh parts ways with Tomlin, it's not going to be a firing. It's going to be a mutual handshake. Like, hey, it's been a good run. It's time. At the beginning, I'm saying, if you judge Callahan's first 11 games versus McCoy's first 11 games, I would take Callahan. Scott is using Edley's catering for his son's Eagles Court of Honor. I'm not a big fan of Nagy's candidacy, but to say he blows, what has he done? Go look at what he did in Chicago and with the quarterbacks that he had. It wasn't bad. Would I rather have Nagy or Mike McDaniels at OC for a defensive head coach? I'd rather have McDaniels, but I don't think McDaniels is getting fired. I could see being scared of this. Skip Tommy says Amy will involve herself too much and Arthur Smith will be our next head coach. Jim Schwartz you could put in that mix as well. I don't think anybody said Tomlin's coming here. I said he'd go to New York. See, I wrote a column about this this week, everything being conditional. So MB says Nagy's winning coaching record was when he had Vic Fangio as his DC. Once Fangio left, the winning stopped. His offense was very gimmicky. Well, did he win those games? Did he hire Vic Fangio? Like, this urge we have to put a condition on absolutely everything that undoes what actually happened has to stop. Nagy won those games. His team won those games with his defensive coordinator who he had a hand in hiring. So we can't say, well, what we're going to do is look at Nagy's record, but we're going to take away what he did with his good defensive coordinator and emphasize what he did with his bad defensive coordinator. So we're going to turn down the volume on this over here, and we're going to turn up the volume on this over here, and that's all that matters. No. Nagy won and did well when he had Vic Fangio, period. Why are we dismissing that? Why are we downscoring that? That counts just as much as the stuff that counts when he lost his defensive coordinator and did poorly. It's the same. I mean, if you read the Dixie says, I just don't think Nagy is as bad as Chicago media painted him out to be. If you read the very good story that Dan Pompei wrote at The Athletic about Nagy recently, Nagy changed after his first year. And this is the big problem. Pete Prisco's really good on this subject. Don't change from what you were that helped you get the head coaching job. Greg Williams did this. Greg Williams was a very good defensive coordinator of the Titans and a fun, upbeat guy. Then he went to Buffalo and he turned into a drill sergeant who was blowing the whistle in the hallway to wake up guys in their dorm rooms at training camp. Well, that wasn't Greg Williams. That's not what got Greg Williams the head coaching job in Buffalo. Don't change. Be the same guy. And Nagy had a very much be myself thing for his first year in Chicago. And his first year in Chicago was good. And then things started to get difficult and he changed. Don't change. This is a good point. Plug it into what I'm saying. It says, so Vrabel's only a good coach with Arthur Smith or Josh McDaniel? I mean, he's a better coach with those guys, but he's a head coach all the time. All of his record counts. Now, would you rather have him with those coordinators? Yes, but all of it counts. And he won some games, some important games with Downing and with Kelly. Now, he lost more, but you can't carve everything up. Like, his record is what his record is. I say this time and time again. Like, the standings are in ink, if you will. And the wins and the losses all count the same. Go read this column that I wrote. You can't take all of this stuff and divide it up and put a condition on it. Tyler Shuck had a really good game against the Titans, but we're going to downscore it because he did it against a bad secondary. Well, on that day, at that time, the Titans didn't have good defensive backs. You know, Vrabel's up for coach of the year. Well, a part of it is that they played a bad schedule. Well, that's the luck of the draw. You know, we're in the Hall of Fame room, and some people say, well, Reggie Wayne, you know, he lucked into Peyton Manning. He played his career with Peyton Manning. Well, it's not his fault. He got drafted by the Colts and he had Peyton Manning, and some of his competition had lesser quarterbacks. That's the way the league works. So you can't gerrymander all of this stuff into being such a bad thing. Read this column that I just put up in the thing. Hey, we've gone over here. you get like a bonus 5 minutes of an excellent podcast. Spread the word. If you're watching on YouTube, give a thumbs up. Twitter, retweet. And if you're listening later on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeart, like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things you can do there to help the cause. I really appreciate you. I will have my final post-game podcast of the 2025 season from the press box in Jacksonville, one of the worst press boxes in the league, on Sunday after the game before flying home Sunday night. And so I will see you then. Try the burnt ends at Edley's, and don't block the box, but be sure, please, to lock your locks.